Hello and welcome to the FDT-TV podcast. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Mike. Today we are a little bit late. Poorly bellies and babies is to be the answer, but in the meantime, the FA Youth Cup is being played at West Ham Arsenal. As you can see in the top corner, West Ham are winning because we are massive. David Moyes is God, although he's not in charge of the under-18s. But West Ham may be lifting some silverware for the first time in a little while. But anyway, Mike, how are you doing after another weekend of, not good?
How am I doing? Oh, it's a tough question to ask. It's a tough question to answer as well, even more to the point. Do you know what? I don't know. But I vaguely remember saying last week, do you know what? I think I can see us losing or dropping points to Southampton, but getting someone against Man City. I know it's a tall order, obviously with the match tomorrow now.
Yep.
I don't know. It's like I said to you, I've said it so many times on this channel, and you'll back me up on this, is that until it was mathematically impossible that we couldn't, or that we could win the league, then there's always the chance we'll slip up. And we're seeing that. I wouldn't necessarily say, no, it is a crumble. We have faltered. Liverpool, I think Liverpool at Anfield was a good result.
Yes.
Gutting to be 2-0 up, but again, playing at Anfield, Liverpool do have some quality. We've said this all season, just a blip of a season. So you kind of expect that when you're playing away at Anfield. Obviously, drawing to you guys are on a bit of form at the moment. So I think that was a disappointing one because we were 2-0 up on that one again. And to concede the goals in the manner that we did, I think was a little bit upsetting. The way that we played against Southampton, 3-1 down, there's no excuses for. The only thing I think that we showed we showed spirit certainly in the second half, obviously, to bring it back, and I think we're unlucky towards the end not to kind of craft out a proper chance.
Yep.
I think the moment where Thomas Partey decided to take a shot from about 40 yards out, instead of playing someone through, it was one of those I want to be a hero moments, and obviously rocketed it way over the bar. But we have seen him score in those sorts of positions. Granted, they're a little bit few and far between, but when they do go in, they are spectacular. So I think it was going for the spectacular, but it didn't come off. So
I was reading the back pages already. That's an old FIFA line there. It's an interesting one. I think Manchester City have hit form right at the perfect time. They've been not at the races necessarily all season, but when you look at how they've played and you look at the table, it's quite interesting because they haven't lost as many matches as I thought they had, and it just I think Wednesday's game is a big one.
Yes.
Will you win it? I'm not so confident. As you said last week, William Saliba is a big miss for you guys. It has changed the season, but again, it's just one of those things you have to roll with the punches in a certain respect. It's just a hard one to take at the minute. Rob Holding is not the same calibre as the rest of your defence. But there is some major news. Because what I have read in Sadiq Khan's new plan, whatever it is, that there is a new bottle factory being opened up in North London.
When Baldy, yeah, sunshine. When we dropped a second at the end of the weekend, then you can.
So they haven't determined whether it's going to be an Arsenal or a Spurs or maybe even a joint bottle factory. Because 6-1, what's that about? Hugo,
that was atrocious. Wasn't it?
When I see it, I joined about 35 minutes into the game, to watching it. And
so you've missed all of the goals.
And I was like, what? It can't be 5 already. What are you talking about? And I was like, they've got it's like trying to run a three-legged horse, isn't it, at the Grand National with Hugo Lloris in goal at the minute. Someone's got to put him out of his misery. And then I realised he'd already been substituted. So I was like, oh, okay, that's, well. And then they sacked the manager anyway. But, yeah, Newcastle turned it on. They've struggled in front of goal this season a little bit, but they didn't struggle at all today. And there is another big game that is ongoing currently, I believe. Let me just check.
Crystal Palace?
No. It might even be tomorrow then. It is the Ishman Premier League, or the Ishman League playoff semi-final. My local team, or previous local team, Canvey Island, is in the playoffs, Mike. It's been a while.
Oh, bloody hell.
It's been a while. Two teams on Canvey, and I think they were going to go potentially into the same league, and now one's going to drop out, the other one's seemingly going to go up. So, hey-ho, let's go. Yeah, it's an interesting week of football. Another managerial sacking. So that's, number 13 of the season. Pochettino looks like he could be going to Chelsea. Harry Kane, there's now more question marks whether he'll sign a new contract to Tottenham. I don't think there's any reason for him to, especially Binaz. And this might sound a bit strange. His favoured manager is going across London to Chelsea, and that's a team that's dying out for a striker. Could we see Harry Kane at Chelsea?
You wouldn't put it past old Mr. Bowley, would you? With the amount of money he's been thrown around since he's been at the club, you definitely wouldn't put it past him. I think you'd have to get rid of Lukaku, 100%. But could you see Harry Kane at Chelsea?
Yes.
I think you could see it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Here's my thinking behind that. I think in terms of loyalties, you'd have to say that's a hard transition to make. But we've seen worse transitions in football.
Yep.
And the fact...
Sol Campbell?
Yeah, what we say, Sol Campbell, Ashley Cole, Jermaine Defoe, I think, has played for everyone in London. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those that never say never, especially as he's not been on the sort of wages throughout his career you'd expect him to be at Tottenham. And I don't think Chelsea, and as you said, Mr. Bohey, are going to be shy of spending a few pounds on a striker this season. And when they go, well, we'll make you the best paid player in the Premier League, that's going to be a difficult one to turn down. Because it's not going to be a short contract. I think that he's going to go, here's a 4-year contract on 300 grand a year. All right, or 300 grand a week, yeah. 300 grand a year would be laughing, but what normal people would be, he'd probably go, well, you stick that off right up your ass. Although, he may not read it. Todd Bowie, if you're listening, try it first. He may not know the difference between a week and a year. So I may have saved you a few pennies there. If you have, bung some my way. It's one of those things. I think loyalty is a good thing in football. I don't think the Tottenham fans could be angry at him if he did make that transition. I think they
would be less angry if he went to one of the Manchester clubs, if I'm being completely honest. Yeah. But I do agree with you. There's nothing really for him to kind of stick around for anymore.
He should have. I think he should have left when they lost the final of the Champions League, and Pochettino went the next season. I think he should have gone then. And gone, do you know what? You've sacked the guy who's taken everywhere, and you've not backed him because they didn't back him. That's why they've faltered. I like him. The rest of the team likes him. You've got rid of him. I stayed here on the basis because I believe that was the stories that were coming out that he stayed on the basis that Pochettino had signed or was going to sign a new contract, and they got rid of him. He's past his peak. And he could have gone and played for Real Madrid. He could have gone and played for Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Man City, Man United. He could have gone and played for any of these superpowers, and he didn't. He chose to stay. So if he, a bit like Declan Rice, if he does leave, he's given you a lot. He could have gone last season, season before. He didn't. He chose to stay. So you have to say, I really don't like that you've left, but good luck to you. I don't know if that's coming from too level-headed a football fan. I'm going to smash that shirt up next season, Declan, if you leave. Going in the bin.
We'll do a ceremonial burning.
Yeah. No, we won't. We won't. That costs a fortune. We won't be doing that at all. But it's just an interesting take. But who do you think is going to be the next Tottenham manager? Because Nagelsmann has ruled himself out of the Chelsea position. He was linked with Tottenham before. Do you think maybe there's something going on in the works there?
To be honest, I don't even think Daniel Levy knows who the next Tottenham manager is. I think he made that evidently clear when they weren't happy with the style of football Antonio Conte was playing. So we'll put his second in command in charge of the first team. So that did not make any sense to me. To be honest, I was so confused as to why they did that. Because effectively he's going to be working off the same philosophies. He's not a Premier League manager. Yep. He's not even an elite level manager, let alone a Premier League manager. It's a very strange one. So now, Tottenham are going to have to... I think Tottenham have already written off this season as a poor season. I'd be very surprised now if they get top four, considering they played 2 games more.
Yep.
I think than Newcastle and Brighton.
Yes.
I think in... the positions directly below him. So I think Tottenham have already checked out for the season. Look to make some recruitments in the summer and go again next season. But you got to say, with the recruitment that they've had, although they won the transfer window at the beginning of this year, they certainly haven't won anything. I don't even think they've won their fans' respect this season.
We'll say that Tottenham are currently 6th with the current results that are on tonight. So that's quite an interesting one. And it is a case of Villa are 5th. And I know I said about Erik ten Hag, if he wins a treble and gets top 4, that he should be in with a shout of manager of the season. Unai Emery took over from Gerrard. They were 17th. They're now 4th.
I think I read something the other day that other than Pep and Arteta, he's won the most amount of points since he's come in to into the management position. It's a shame he couldn't do that at Arsenal.
Yeah, I think had he been given the time at Arsenal and the ability to rebuild and cull the players that he wanted to cull, that I think he may have been able to do that. It's an interesting one. Villa is that size of club that he thrives at. He's never thrived at a humongous club, which was Arsenal was his first real attempt at it. And also there is an update in the FA Youth Cup final. It's now 4-1 to West Ham. Come on, you Irons. It's one of those that he never really showed his true qualities. Was it Sevilla and Valencia he took to Europa League winners? Villa is very much that size of club. If he had taken over at West Ham, would he have done the same thing with them? Probably. It's that size of club. It's not top tier, but it's the ones that are banging on the door that should be. If there's going to be a logical next big club, it's going to be one of those. Do you know what I mean? So is he potentially a contender for manager of the year, even though he hasn't been in all year?
I think it's certainly worth a shout, 100%. You can't... one thing we've said over and over again is stats don't lie. He's done an amazing job, and definitely should be in with a shout. I think it's going to come down to, I do think, in all seriousness, it will come down to one of two people. I think it's going to come down to either Arteta or Pep, if I'm being completely honest. And I think it will just depend on who wins the league. When you look at the Managers of the Month awards that have been issued out this season, obviously Arteta's bagged 4. He's certainly not going to win one this month, 100%, definitely not. But I think even if we don't win the league, he has to be put into contention from where we were to effectively challenge him for the title this year.
Yeah, he's beat the targets in the league, isn't he? Because I think the target from everyone was a top 4, a top 3 finish to guarantee Premier League return or Champions League return. Sorry, and he smashed it out of the park. Had you not had the injuries, I think you've had it wrapped up by now. But at the other end of the table, Frank Lampard, is he going to be the next manager to be sacked? He's only in interim charge of Chelsea. They are currently sitting 11th, and they have a couple of games in hand and teams below them. They haven't scored since he took over. Real Madrid have now scored more goals in England this season than Chelsea have. That's an interesting fact. And the fact that actually, with the teams around the bottom of the table picking up a bit of form between them, it's not going to be incomprehensible that they're actually in a relegation battle. They're 11 points behind relegation, or in front of relegation. But yeah, I mean, West Ham, we're now only 5 points behind them. We played the same amount of games. Do you think he could be sacked before the end of the season, or do you think they'll stick with him? And the other part of that question, do you think they're serious contenders potentially for dropping down right at the last minute with 7 games to go?
Well, football's a funny old game, isn't it? That we've got to play them next Tuesday, I think it is. So I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, yes, it's a possibility he could be sacked, 100%. We've already seen it with what's his name, Tottenham boss.
Yep.
Fellaini. He's already been sacked after a few games in charge. So yes, there's every possibility he could be sacked. Do you know what? It was really frustrating. Is obviously the run of games that we've been on already. For the past few weeks.
Yep.
Obviously, three draws isn't good, and we've got obviously Man City coming tomorrow, and then Chelsea, as I said, next week. I would like to think that we could get the result against Chelsea. Obviously, we have seen that they are struggling for goals, but. Yep. I don't know. I've just got a niggly feeling that something's going to happen in that game, just as I did with the Southampton game. Because it was written in the stars that Southampton were going to do something to kind of dent our title hopes, just because of the position they're in. Couldn't string wins together, and granted, I know they didn't win, but they certainly took the points off us. And when you look at Chelsea's form, or I think Frank Lampard's form. I think he hasn't won in something like 17 games or something stupid. I think I saw the other day.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make good reading. But I suppose you kind of, when it comes to the derby or any derby games, as we know, kind of form goes out the window. Blah 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 blah. Every cliche under the sun. So it wouldn't surprise me if something happens like, I don't know, Rob Holding gets a silly red card for manhandling someone. We concede a penalty. And we end up losing that game. I can see it already.
Yeah.
Given the time that we've got for the rest of the season, I don't think Chelsea will sack him unless, in fact, no. I think Chelsea will keep hold of him until the end of the season because something's got to click shortly. He's been with him a couple of weeks now, so he needs to address some issues, obviously, but. I can't see him being sacked, but there's every possibility of him being sacked. And just in relation to the relegation battle, again, football is a funny old game. You could be the worst team in the league. You can come to a match day and suddenly something happens. Do you know what I mean? You could get that lucky free kick. You can get that lucky penalty. You can get that lucky through ball and catch them on a counter-attack and then stick 11 men behind the ball.
Yep.
There's every possibility that they could be drawn into it. I doubt it when you look at the likes of Leicester and Southampton and there's every possibility that they could be drawn into it. I don't see it happening.
Here's their run of fixtures. So they've got Brentford tomorrow. Then they play you. and these are the two key ones, I think. Bournemouth away.
Yep.
I mean, we trumped Bournemouth at the weekend, but they've been playing really well recently, and they've been scoring a lot of goals. And that's the thing that Chelsea are struggling with, is scoring goals. If someone can get two, they're not getting back into the match, I don't think. And Bournemouth will still be fighting for their lives at that point. Then they're at home to Nottingham Forest.
Yep.
If they've lost a couple on, because I don't see them getting points really against Brentford or yourselves. So I think heads are going to be gone. People will go, "Oh, we'll be on holiday." If they then get beaten by Bournemouth, I think Nottingham Forest maybe had to nick something, even if it's a point. And then they finish it off with away to City, away to United, at home to Newcastle. I realistically, I see them potentially. They should win a few of those games. That you look back at Chelsea being Chelsea, but realistically, I think if they get 6 points out of that run, that's really good for them in a minute. There's a lot of teams in there that are really not at the ball. It's a really strange season. And I think their saving grace is there are so many teams this year that have something's not clicked, something's not right. Had it been a normal season, they're in the relegation spots. For 40 points is a safe spot. We're a point under that at the minute. But I really do think, especially with those run of games coming thick and fast as well, confidence goes. What do? They brought in Frank to give that sort of feel-good feeling. It's just not happened. It's not happened as they wanted.
No.
But Leicester currently moved out of the relegation spaces, even though they're losing. So, yeah, interesting one. Let's move on to the weekend, shall we?
Weekend coming or weekend just gone?
Weekend just gone. So you were sitting pretty at the top of the table still. Even though it was getting closer, You went 3-1 down.
Yep.
And it looked like that was it. That was title race over, 3-1 down. You brought it back in the last 2 minutes, I think, or last 2 minutes of play time. Scored 2 goals. Now, some would say that's the sort of performance, a turnaround when you shouldn't have won that game. Or you shouldn't have got a point out of that game. You did. Some would say that's the sort of performance that will make a champion. But you have got Man City breathing down your neck. So what was your feeling at 3-1? Did you carry on watching it? Did you go, do you know what? I'm done with this season.
Well,
I've thrown up my heart and that's it. I'm changing teams.
To be honest, there was a point where it got to when we did concede the third goal. I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. Not with the season, obviously, but I'm done with that particular game. But it was just one of those ones where I haven't done it at all this season. Obviously, granted, we have had quite a good season, but I haven't done it in such a long time where I'm assuming that's 5-1, is it? Or is that full time?
Full time, I believe. Full time. I can get
so I will hold my hands up. There was a moment I was like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
But as you said, we've been in this position a couple of times already this season. We either manage to scrape the win or we do manage to put it back. And it does. I think it cements my belief that what we've been doing this season is completely different than any other season, because any other season or any other previous season, you would have seen those games as that's it. Heads would have dropped completely, game over. But there is a fight, there is a belief. I think the crowd have been absolutely fantastic all throughout the season, getting behind the team, even going 1-0 down. You had everyone getting behind the team, 2-1 down, everyone behind the team.
Yeah.
And you see a couple of people that are stepping up. I mean, granted, for this weekend, there was a couple of decisions as to what I would have picked personally in terms of the midfield, going with Pablo Vieira instead of Jorginho. I think Vieira should have come off sooner. for Jorginho, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see Jorginho starting tomorrow against Man City, because he's quite level-headed, he's got the experience, and that's what we need at the moment. We need something a bit cool, calm, and collected. Another appalling game from Thomas Partey. There's 2 games on the bounce now. So I think someone with a bit more experience to kind of fill in that position with him. It sucks having William Saliba out at the moment. It's not making for good reading. It could potentially be out for the rest of the season, and there will always be that what if. What if he'd stayed fit? Could we have gone on to win the league? I mean, it's still possible that we could still win the league.
Yes,
Man City. I know they've got 2 games in hand over us at the moment, but we've already said it. It's a funny old season. They could potentially drop points, in which case we're right back in the mix. They could drop points against us tomorrow.
Yes,
we're obviously going on the basis. I mean, it's looking like it's going to be the case, but that they're going to steamroll teams for the rest of the season. But they've got the FA Cup to look forward to now. So they've got to have one eye on that. They're still in the Champions League. I think they're coming up against Real Madrid in the semi-final. So they've still got games or more games to play, and there's a game against Brighton, I think, which is still yet to be scheduled. So it's not over till it's over, but it's looking highly unlikely.
And it's one of those things. 4 or 5 weeks ago, when I've been saying it for ages, we're not going to do you a favour. When you look at our last few results, we might. I don't know where it's come from. I don't know what's happened. We're pulling out major results. Bit like the one in the top corner at a minute. It wasn't full time. It was a 5th. They were celebrating like
There's
it was
still
over.
time to claw it back, mate.
Where there's only literally last kick of the ball, and it is now over. West Ham win the Youth FA Cup 5-1. Get in. Now, a lot of people were saying, I mean, I went to see the semi-final, 7,000 fans at London Stadium, where we beat Southampton 6-1. There is a lot of good players there. I mean, Arsenal, we've steamrolled the under-18s Premier League. Arsenal did beat Manchester City in their semi-final, who won the under-18s Northern Premier League. But say we are the Academy of Football. There are a few talents in that team. You go, some of them have already scored for the first team. So there is talent there. There's some where you go, actually, if you're grown, if you're mentored and coached in the right way, you could be a real talent. Getting all excited. So yeah, it is an interesting one. I mean, let's move on to West Ham, shall we? 4-0. Biggest result of the season for us. Pablo Fornal's scorpion kick to finish it off. Bit of individual brilliance. I'm not sure whether that's a case of that little bit of confidence after the European victory has given them a boost. I think it helps that Lucas Paqueta has put in his best 3 games of the season, all in a game after game after game on the trot. But yeah, it's just what's happened. This is not expected from West Ham fans. It's one of those things that David Moyes needed one more win to seal his fate and carry on. And he always seems to do it. And then we've gone on a little bit of run. What I hope is that we finish in that way. If we play like that for the rest of the season, play with a bit of creative freedom, then we're laughing. And we'll be all right. We'll probably go on to win the Europa Conference League. My biggest thing is, has David Moyes got it in him? But it's not really down to him at this point. It's down to the players. We're in the semi-finals now.
Yep.
So we've got 2 more games to play. And then we get to the final. And there has been a little bit of outrage because I was reading the other day, I'm not sure if it's the semi-final or the final, where the ticket allocation is horrendous. We've got less allocation for the final. I think it's the final than we've taken to every other game away in Europe this season, and that's partly because I think it's being played in a bit of a poncy stadium in the middle of nowhere. but partly because it all goes out to corporate. So it's going to be a really empty stadium full of people who don't really want to watch, and two teams who never potentially not had European silverware ever, or two teams that haven't had it in a long time, and their fans don't get to enjoy that occasion. I mean, what do you make of that? It's all democracy. That was part of the reason for the Super League wanting to be made, because people don't like UEFA. It was packaged really badly. But again, they've come up and it's coming down to what benefits their pocket rather than what benefits the fans. What do you make of the final being a bit shit?
Well, I think you've just summed it up perfectly there. Money talks and bullshit walks. I think is the only way to sum it up. We've seen how corrupt FIFA can be. You've mentioned it so many times about match fixing going on in other leagues and all this sort of stuff. It's certainly becoming a little bit more evident in the Premier League, and if anyone disagrees with you, then I would put a case to say, when you first said that, I did have a little bit of a chuckle, but I've seen it more and more this season, and I do agree. So yes, it wouldn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form. I think it's unfair. At the end of the day, the fans are the ones that pay the tickets.
Yep.
The fans make the game. I know you've got to have a team or whatever, but if you had no one support the team would collapse. I think it's an absolute outrage that they do get away with stuff like that. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And I think we even saw it, I want to say, for the final against Chelsea in the Europa League a few years ago. I think played in Baku. I think we had a very small ticket allocation for both clubs, and the rest going out to corporates and all this sort of stuff. And I don't get why they do that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I
really don't.
It's being played at the Fortuna Arena, which is the home of, it's not Slavia Prague. I'm not sure if that's the one that's owned by the guy who owns West Ham or not. I don't think it is. I think that's the other Prague club. But it's got a capacity of 19,300.
So you get about 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah. So our home allocation, our lowest attendance was the home win at the weekend, or on Thursday, because of the form and the sort of a bit of a standing row, I suppose, with the performances, and that was still over 40,000. We've taken 5,000 or 6,000 at least to every game, even the ones that are like, that's the biggest attendance they've ever had. And it's just, it baffles me. You're trying to make this competition big. I know you don't want to put it in a Wembley and no one turn up, but when you look at it and you go, okay, what teams are likely to get to the final? You can rule out a few minnows, can't you, from the get-go, and go, there's going to be at least one of these. Oh, and a Europa League team's going to drop down, so that's going to be sort of where we're looking. It's got to be at least a 50,000 seat stadium. And I know you might go, well, that's hard to find across Europe. Then play it in the places that have got them, because if you as it said, if you play it, they will come. But yeah, it's frustrating for that. I mean, I won't be going because of other things, but it's just frustrating for those fans who would have gone, that's followed the team around Europe, or their teams around Europe, not just ours, other teams as well, that won't get the opportunity to go and see this occasion. Win, lose, draw. Well, not draw, win or lose, but it's just a frustrating thing. But what else was I gonna say about the weekend's football? We covered Newcastle, didn't we? Beating Tottenham. We've covered Southampton. I think we've covered everyone, really. Everton back in the relegation spots. They've not really been able to put it in. Calvert-Lewin saw his return again for maybe the fourth or fifth time this season. Will he help them? He needs to start scoring if they're going to stay up. I don't really know what else to say apart from we make predictions every week. And last week we made a few predictions. So, Mike, I'll hand over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. So yeah, we made a couple of predictions. We've already gone over the scores for the results, so I'll just dive into them very quickly. You predicted an Arsenal 4-0 win to a 4-0 win to Arsenal in the Arsenal Southampton game. I went for 3-1 and it was 3-3. You went for the Bournemouth West Ham, you went 2-1. I went for 2-2 and it was a 4-0 win, as we've already mentioned. So 0 points for this particular week. And scores for the totals for the season remain unchanged. So you're on 46, I'm on 58. But we have got a couple of games to go over in the week.
Yep.
We've got West Ham, Liverpool, and Manchester City versus Arsenal.
We've got a couple after that as well. Because
we're not playing until the Tuesday.
Oh, we've got Palace on Saturday.
Palace on Saturday. I was going to say I was trying. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, you're the early kickoff. So if I just do that, and so just as you are playing first, or your game kicks off first tomorrow. I think you're at 7:45. Do you want to give us your predictions for the game against Liverpool at home?
There was last year we beat Liverpool at home. Everyone remembers it. Liverpool were undefeatable. We slayed a giant. This year, they're hitting form, then dropping off, then hitting form, then dropping off. There's something in me that thinks we're going to do it again. And I've not had that feeling a lot this season. I'm going 2-1 West Ham.
Okay.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I don't want to go into it too much because I'm probably going to be wrong, but...
I am going to go... slightly different. Obviously, you've mentioned that they have hit a bit of form. They've got a few players back from injury. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Liverpool. I would love it if you do get a point against them tomorrow at the very minimum. And I will take a lot of pleasure in messaging one of our good friends, giving him a bit of stick. So next is the Man City Arsenal game. I've already said my bit about the start of the podcast. I mentioned that potentially dropping points to West Ham and possibly getting something from Man City. Obviously, you've already mentioned Man City have looked fairly comfortable over the last few weeks, getting results done and getting results done early. We know that this is a massive game for us, and I would love to see us put the fight in that we have done all season. Do I think that we're going to win the game? No, I don't. I am going to go for a 2-2 draw on this one. I would love to see us get a result against Man City, and fingers crossed we do. But I think we'll lose, but I'm hoping for a draw, so I'm going to go for 2-2.
Yeah, I mean Manchester City, as we said, they've not always been at the races this season, much like Liverpool. It is a case, I think, that in some senses they are defensively lax. And what I mean by that, all right, they beat Liverpool 4-1, but they conceded. Again, they beat Southampton 4-1, but Southampton scored and could have scored more. Same with Leicester. They beat them 3-1. Leicester should have had at least 5 goals in that game and just couldn't eat their dinner. It's not a case that you're not going to score. It's a case whether you can put a stop on your defensive woes. And I think it's very much the same for them. If they can shore up that defence. Now, I know you said Saliba's out for potentially the rest of the season. I've read some bits and pieces, and Arteta's saying, well, he's definitely not going to be back for Man City. Is that a ploy? I don't know. Is that we don't have to worry about that, and all of a sudden he's there, bang, hello, is a problem we don't need to deal with? I'm not too sure. I'm going to go... It's going to be a game that neither team wants to lose, isn't it? I'm going to go 1-0 Manchester City. I think they're going to... do I? No, I don't. I think you might get an early goal, though. This is really hard. No, I've said it now. I'm going to go 1-0 Manchester City with them to nick something late on.
Okay. Let's hope for an Arsenal win, just because I think the Premier League needs a bit of a shake-up, and we haven't won the league in 19 years. So, yeah, let's go for an Arsenal win. Right, that leads us on to Saturday, Crystal Palace versus West Ham.
Okay, we're away to Palace, I think.
Yes.
Roy is back in charge of Palace, who are currently losing. They had a really good start under him, didn't they? After Vieira left. They have potential, they have creative ability, they have goal scorers. They have a good team, Palace. I think Vieira did them quite well there, just fell victim to poor form. But do we have enough to come over them? Oh, maybe not. Not in that sense. Get your mind out of the gutter. I'm going to go for a 2-2.
Okay.
We're going to come over each other.
I've gone for 3-1 to West Ham on this one, I think.
Fair enough.
But as you said, Roy's has made a good start for Crystal Palace. No, I've already said it. I'm going to go for 3-1 to West Ham on this one. I think you'll lose against Liverpool tomorrow, but I think that'll kind of spur you on to come back fighting, and that'll be the game.
I know I made the comments about Chelsea potentially being drawn back into the relegation battle. I think if we can get 3 more points, we're going to be safe. That will put us 38, I think. So it's not a lot, but I think this season that will be enough to keep you safe and almost keep you mid-table. I hope obviously for a lot more than that, because we've got 7 games to play. But realistically, you're looking at the fixtures. If we can get 5 points, I think we're laughing. So yeah, I mean, have you got anything else to add to this week's podcast, Mike?
No,
neither have I. So I've been Ian.
I've been Mike.
If you've enjoyed it, leave a comment in the comment section on YouTube or wherever. Go and subscribe, and we'll see you at the usual time on a Monday next week.
Ciao, ciao.